Enforced disappearance is a violation of the Geneva Conventions. It's a war crime. The data is somewhat hard to come by on the scale and scope of both what Russian forces are doing through their so-called filtration system, their interrogation, and in some cases, we believe, torture and murder that comes along with those interrogations, and then enforced disappearances.
And what can the United States do to address this?
Well, we're taking a number of different steps. The first and foremost, as I mentioned, it's bringing this activity to light. Putting intelligence information into the public domain. We are also funding a number of different organizations that are actually doing the on-the-ground research, taking those interviews, cataloging the information, and eventually those stories are going to lead to some form of accountability. And the U.S. government has been very clear that at the end of the day, those that are responsible for atrocities will be held to account.
Well, President Biden has spoken of genocide in Ukraine. He's said that President Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and that evidence should be gathered for a trial. How might that work in practice?
Well, it remains to be seen. There are a number of different ways in which we may arrive at accountability. We and like-minded governments are first and foremost supporting the prosecutorial and investigatory systems in Ukraine, and they are already undertaking investigations and prosecutions for war crimes. There are also international mechanisms, and there are a number of different options that are on the table. Our diplomats are working with accountability experts from around the world to determine what sort of international mechanism may be appropriate in the long term.
Well, the International Criminal Court is already investigating, right? It's already gathering evidence.
That's right.
Are you helping them at all?
Yeah, we've been public that we are going to support the ICC where we can.
And how can you help them?
Well, in ways like providing information. Case in point, we want to be able to provide to them whatever we may have through various means so that their prosecutors can build an appropriate case.
So this might include intelligence?
It may. I can't get ahead of the intelligence community, but we want to hand over the sort of information that can lead to accountability.
Okay. And you want to help the ICC pursue this. How much of a problem is it that you yourselves are not signed up to the ICC?
We've been clear that in the context of Russian atrocities in Ukraine, we, together with many partners from around the world, are going to pursue accountability mechanisms. As I mentioned, there are several that are underway, and we want to be supportive where we can.
Are you thinking, though, about the implications of the United States backing the ICC on this when it itself won't submit to the scrutiny of the ICC elsewhere in terms of a credibility problem? So
I respectfully reject the premise of the question. You're dealing with fundamentally different situations in so much as the United States has a credible criminal justice system where crimes are investigated and perpetrators are dealt with appropriately. That is obviously not the system that we're dealing with respect to Russia, where there are clearly state-directed crimes being committed by Russian forces in Ukraine.
Okay. The European Union member states have agreed this week that they want to restrict entry to the European Union to Russian tourists to make it more difficult for Russians to travel. This is a really tricky subject which is being discussed in many countries. What sort of discussions are you having in the White House about this issue?
Yeah, we're involved. We're in constant conversation, of course, with our EU and NATO partners and the Ukrainian government. Ultimately, this is a question that the EU member states are debating, and we're going to leave that choice to them.
But for the United States?
Yeah, what I can say on behalf of the United States is that we have tried we are using every opportunity at our disposal to impose costs on the Russian government for its actions, crushing sanctions first and foremost. That said, we need to be very careful about taking steps that could inadvertently punish innocent Russians, many of whom we know do not support the war, and some of whom are actively trying to flee repression at home. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that innocent people aren't harmed.